Welcome to the Resolution Room with me, Mike Gaston. The Resolution Room is a monthly podcast on behalf of Mediation Northern Ireland and Ulster University, where we explore the uses of mediation in conflict resolution and peace building. This episode, the fifth in the series, is on family mediation, and we'll explore what family mediation is and how to access it, where family mediators come from, how they're trained and how they're supported, and the role of family mediation in the justice system. To help us do that, I'm joined by Joan Davis, CEO of Relate NI, and Polly Rowan Hamilton, an accredited mediator and professional practice consultant. Joan and Polly, you're both very, very welcome to the Resolution Room. Now, there have been some fairly recent organisational changes to family mediation in Northern Ireland. Joan, maybe you could bring us up to speed on those.
Yes, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. Family Mediation NI was 22 years old and Relate NI are 76 years old. So we made the decision to merge these two reputable charities because there's synergy between what we do, and we both work with families. So we've been working hard all of last year to have this amicable merger so that we can deliver a raft of services to the public.
And what were the pluses for the organisations in joining together?
Well, I think we've always had a good relationship, and family mediation actually started out in Relate way back in the 90s, maybe 94, 95 time. And it was developed there by the likes of Sheena Bell and Muriel Orr, under the guidance of the then CEO. But like everything, funding was a difficulty, and the Department of Health funded a pilot, and then that was stopped. So family mediation was dropped from Relate, and it was then Sheena Bell took it out and established the charity itself. So there's that natural, if you like, family history of the two charities, and we felt the time was right. As family mediation is more understood now, that if we brought it into a larger charity as part of the continuum of services to the public, that it would get more recognition, more use, and that we can influence policymakers better.
And of course, funding is always part of the mix, and it's something we'll come back to in this conversation. Back to basics, Polly. What is family mediation?
Well, Mike, thank you very much. Family mediation is a voluntary and confidential process to support family members moving forward with a well-informed decision-making process supported by an impartial mediator.
Okay, and what attracted you to get involved in family mediation?
I think families are unique. My background is in teaching. Families, it's a privilege to work with families. We all have many things in common, but we all have differences as well. So giving families the space to make well-informed decisions, to help support their way out of conflict and difficulties is, in my mind, the most wonderful thing we can do to support families. In fact, all of us can benefit from that.
Absolutely. So, Joan, what's the main driver in family mediation?
The main driver for the process, well, I suppose you could look at it several different ways. Family mediation as a process, as a service, as a profession is very well renowned and understood across the world. It's used in Europe without question. It's used across the border without question, and very well funded by the Department of Justice down there. And it's used very well in Great Britain. There's a sticking point in Northern Ireland for some reason in terms of a cultural approach to how we manage family breakdown. And a lot of our work is with separated parents, obviously. And the intent is early intervention to help prevent parents entering the court system. So if they engage willingly and voluntarily, as Polly has said, with the process, they themselves can take responsibility for the breakdown, take responsibility for their children's future, and negotiate their own co-parenting plan. So that's the driver. That has so many and some measurable benefits to children and society if people will manage family breakdown as opposed to battling it out in the court system for several years.
And of course, historically in Northern Ireland, what we tended to do, instead of go for supporting family separation, we worked all out to keep families together.
Yes, there is that history. Now, thankfully, I think we've moved from that and accepted the realities of 21st century life, that relationships will break down, that children will be born to parents who are not married, who are not in a relationship. So there's lots of different family types, and we want to focus on the needs of the children and support the parents to do the best thing for the children, as opposed to spend huge sums of money, and perhaps the implications are worse for the children when the outcome of a long protracted court case is the result.
And of course, societally, we tend to look at the family as a static unit, but it's a dynamic unit. It keeps changing.
It's, it's that, I'm not fond of that word, reblend it and blend it, but we are where we are. And in the service, we are seeing that blended and reblended. People with different types of families in different places in different parts of the world, and parents in different parts of the world as well. So it's all very fluid. Really?
Sure.
Yeah.
I use the word driver, but there's another very important word, which is, which are the most important elements, or who are the most important elements in family mediation?
Well, well-trained mediators with competency around ethics and managing their practice well. I think that we, in mediation, in family mediation, we really support our mediators. They're very well trained. And then they have supervised practice once they complete their courses. And that is ongoing. And then if they do join the panel and work for now Relate Family Mediation, they have ongoing supervision, group supervision, and also they avail of ad hoc supervision if they need it, and continuing professional development to ensure that they manage a fair and respectful process for all families. And then the other element, of course, are the families themselves. So it's getting them ready for mediation, supporting them. So shall I tell you a little bit? So we see family members individually.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was going to ask a very basic question, which is how much work goes into preparing families for mediation?
Well, we do quite a lot of work around that, because the thing about the one difference, I suppose, about mediation, say compared to other processes, is the decision-making lies with the family members. So to be able to make decisions and make well-informed decisions, we need to ensure that our clients and family members are feeling well-informed and also able to listen to each other and really be able to respond, so that the conflict, that if they're in conflict or there's some end of relationship issues impacting there, they don't create a fog, which might mean at the end that the mediated agreements are not well-informed. So we encourage our clients to really think about where they are. Do they need more support before attending mediation to deal with any relationship or any say anger issues or anything that may be impacting on their ability to really build good communication with one another to move forward.
And how often do you feel that people have come to you too late to be able to relate to each other?
Yes, it can happen. And it can be what we would maybe use a word that people maybe when people are entrenched. So they've been in a conflict a very long time. And it's very hard to support, to encourage. We can encourage people, but to actually encourage them to really understand other people's perspectives. And as we know, when we become very entrenched in our perspective, it's hard to recognize there are others. And then if you can't recognize there are others, it's very hard to build respect and trust going forward. So we do know that happens, but we can work very hard to support and signpost clients to either other services, reading, conflict coaching, whatever it is that's out there to support families and enable them to move forward.
And sadly, most of us go into conflict going, I'm right, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And that's a very difficult place to get past.
Yeah.
To many of us, it seems like family mediation has a central goal of reaching an agreed settlement. What else is involved, Joan?
Yes. I suppose that agreed settlement we would view as legal language. And of course, we're outside of the whole legal world and delivering a service that's very, very different. We aren't representing either of the parents' best interests. We're facilitating a discussion and a negotiation and a compromise with the focus very much on their children. So the co-parenting plan is the goal, but if it doesn't get there, they'll still will have benefited from engaging with us at that time. They may walk away from mediation and return to mediation. So there's not a one size fits all. And the goal is to help people perhaps learn new modes of communication post-love situation. It's now a business transaction, if you like, to be brutal about it, because they have to find ways going forward to communicate around everything that is involved in being a parent. So they're no longer a couple, but they're always a parent. And to us, it's the rights of the child for a safe and healthy relationship with both parents. So ultimately they can move freely between both parents, and any conflict is not leading to an adverse childhood experience. And that's really the goal of the early intervention family mediation. It's the welfare of the child.
One of the trends that we notice coming from America is that when people are when families are going for separation, the judge will say, you must do mediation first. Now, to what extent is that a handicap? Or
well,
is
I mean,
that
that's very real in GB. It's much closer. There is legislation there for mandatory information and assessment meetings. Now, yes, there's a voucher scheme. It's funded. So it is the carrot and the stick, and it seems to be working very well. It had a lot of teething problems at the beginning. But when people are moved into a situation where they have to go to an information and assessment meeting, they're often quite surprised by what they learn. So then they start to explore mediation more, and hopefully a large percentage engage. You can't mandate mediation, but you can mandate seeking the information about what mediation may offer you.
And Polly, how does it feel when you're in a situation that you've got a family and people are only there because they have to be there, not because they want to be there? To what extent is that helpful or harmful to the process?
Well, it's very helpful, actually, because if they can be honest about what they're feeling about coming, we can really explore with them, what we are and what we can offer them, and how they need to be prepared for it. But equally, we're able to encourage and make them very aware this is a voluntary process. So even if they leave the IM saying I don't feel it's right for me at this time, I don't feel actually prepared to engage or ready to engage, then we can signpost them off to other supports to help them get ready. But also just a reading to sometimes to normalise for families that this is the emotions and the difficulties that they encounter. Whilst not always the same for every family, there are a lot of commonalities. Therefore, we like to normalise it to see if they can then take the time to maybe consider other options, which may not be right for them right now, but it may be something for the future for them to consider when they are in a better position, maybe to come and have well-informed, future-focused conversations.
And I think to add to that, because we're in this new organisation now that, and we will be rebranding later in the year, just to get that in. We're now in a position where if there's someone arrives with Polly or another mediator that's very clearly struggling with the end of the relationship, that it's just too overwhelming and emotional, we can now refer them in-house to end of relationship counselling. And that really is why we merged. And similarly, if people are, say couples are in with a counsellor working through issues and problems and challenges within the relationship, and then they decide to separate, they can be referred seamlessly into family mediation to help them with the practical process of managing that separation. So that's the key really to the wraparound support. So it's not that everyone comes to family mediation or counselling and will engage. They might be in the wrong end of the organisation, but we can move them into the right end. And as Polly says, every day cases are closed or don't go further than the IAMs because it's been assessed as not suitable for our service at this time, and we're very upfront about that.
Sorry, Joan, can you just tell me what IM is?
Oh, information and assessment meeting, which is the initial individual one-to-one session that the mediator will have to enable them to assess, and also to enable the client, the parent, to assess whether this is the organisation for me. So it's a two-way street. It's all very voluntary.
And you were very clear at the start, Joan, that this is not all about the legal process. In fact, the two processes are separate. But how helpful is mediation in terms of reducing maybe court costs or court waiting times?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, and we do work really well with the Law Society, and we've delivered CPD, and we are trying to influence the policymakers in the Department of Justice in terms of funding greater access to family mediation. We're very conscious there's a 4-month waiting list for instance, a dad applying with a contact order to see his child. Whereas if both of those parents engaged with us willingly, they would be in the system and out of the system in that 4 months with us. So it's very important that we work alongside the legal profession. The legal profession give advice and representation, and we don't. We offer a facilitative model of mediation. So there's room for everyone in the space, but it is more cost effective financially, emotionally, and for society for more people to try family mediation and avoid entry into the court system.
And I'm sure the process of mediation enables people to be less afraid of the court proceedings as well.
Absolutely, because sometimes we do get, and it's not a huge amount of our work, but we've worked a lot with various family proceedings judges, and the judges are very supportive of family mediation wherever it is. In terms of a first appearance, the judge will want people to go to family mediation. So we do get a number of court referrals, and families often say to the mediator, if we'd known about you, we'd have been here first. And that concerns us, that there's just not enough information being circulated within the legal profession and within the court system to enable people to avoid it for as long as possible. And then if they have a mediated agreement and they are married, they can use that then to finalise their divorce.
That's useful and good information. And I suppose the key here is how do we get that more widely known, because that's clearly important. Polly, what about the mediators themselves? Where do they come from?
They come from a variety of backgrounds, legal background, social work background, teaching background, I mean, you name it. And they come in and they train extensively in all areas, not just of mediation, but also understanding the legals around situations parents might find them in, not because we give advice, we are non-advisory as mediators, but so that we know that if parents are not well informed, we can make sure that they go and get the advice that they need. Because as I think we've already mentioned, this is not legally binding mediation. Therefore, if clients are going to go and make it legally binding after their mediation, they need to make sure that their decision-making really is well informed.
What makes an ideal family mediator?
A good listener who is non-judgmental and is able to manage a process that really supports and respects families with an clear understanding around confidentiality. So we're able to safeguard people and so we don't put them in harm's way. But I think respectful, listening, well-informed and able to support parents effectively and manage a process to do that.
How much time does it take to train a family mediator?
Oh, it's as Sheena Bell always said to me, every day is a learning day as a mediator. And they begin by an application process. Our foundation training programme is accredited by the College of Mediators. We're going through the accreditation process at the minute with Mediators Institute Ireland. So as part of that, there is a filter, there's a criteria you must meet to enter the foundation training programme. So obviously we want to be working with people who are meeting that criteria and able to complete what is a very, very intense 12 days spread over, I think, 3 months or so. And that's the hard work at the beginning. And then there's the co-working practice. So they're supervised under the likes of Polly here in terms of working with another accredited mediator. So, and then they're building a portfolio over maybe 18 months, 2 years to become accredited. So it's not something to enter in lightly because it is a huge task.
And who funds support for practicing mediators?
Well, when they're applying for the foundation training program, they're paying for their own training. So there's no bursary scheme. People think, oh, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health must be supporting building capacity of family mediators in Northern Ireland, and the answer is no, they're not.
Okay, I'm going to ask an even harder question now, which is how much governance is there for maintaining standards of practice for family mediators?
Yeah, there's a huge amount of governance, and it's very important that we all operate under either currently our mediators will accredit with the College of Mediators UK, or some of us will accredit with Mediation Institute of Ireland, and they all have code of ethics and standards, and we are rigorous. And that is actually, I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I chose Family Mediation Northern Ireland initially to train with, because training was not seen as a one-stop, quick do a course here for a weekend, which you may see advertised in other places. But we have continuing supervision. You only work with accredited mediators, and the benefit of reflective practice. And I think with a facilitative model of mediation that we offer, reflective practice is one of the things that we really look for in our mediators, and the ability to develop that, because some mediators don't come from backgrounds where they're used to that. And they maybe think supervision is coming in for a telling off or something, but it's not. Supervision is the most wonderful, whether it's group or individual. It's a really good way to be able to reflect honestly on what you could or could have done differently and what may have supported better. Or, we share our things that we think work. We share good practice, and we also support each other when we have moments where we think we could have done something better or more supportive.
And I suppose in addition to that College of Mediator standards, and you sit on that committee, don't you, Polly?
Yes, I do. I currently sit on the Practice Standards Committee for the College of Mediators UK, which means it's very helpful because I get lots of experience looking at other organisations, but also I'm able to really keep in touch for all the mediators here with what is going on and where we need to make sure if we need additional training or there's new legislation that's coming in, we need to make sure that we're on top of that and our mediators are fully aware, even though they don't give advice.
So every day is still a learning day.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
And then there is the College of Mediator standards, the MII standards, and then there's our own standards. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a tight ship, and I think that is what's helped build the reputation, I think, of family mediation in Northern Ireland. So
an effective client service delivery. So from the minute the clients engage, we know that we are supporting them as best we can, but also we are really ensuring that our mediators are the highest quality, and they are, well, as you will know well, they're pretty and fabulous, amazing people.
Okay, I've got a question for both of you, which is, what do you say to someone who's considering becoming a family mediator?
What would I say? Well, I do actually get asked that question quite a lot. I'll obviously ask them a little bit about maybe what's brought them to think about that they would like to be a mediator. And then I would be asking them actually, because generally they're people who've already been involved with another profession. So I would then say, do you have time for reflective practice? And are you able to really be able to have the time to not only attend training, but also do additional training and attend supervisions to make sure that you are collaborative and you're able to listen? Because that's sometimes there are some professions which may find that harder when they come in. So you want to be really honest about that. Does that make sense?
Joan, what do you say to potential clients about the value of undertaking mediation in their context?
Yes, if I was speaking to someone, and I mean it happens pretty often because, family breakdown is very common in Northern Ireland, and even outside of work practices, I meet people and I give my opinion, and I would certainly encourage everyone, if someone is going through a family separation, a parental separation, or a wider family dispute, because we haven't even touched on that, because that's a whole other area that Polly leads on in terms of elder mediation. I would say to them to read widely, to look at many of the good sites, including our own, in terms of listening to the podcasts we have, listening to the testimony of those that have used it, listen to children of separated parents who are now adults, and give it a fair chance before they default and leap into the adversarial process. It's not for everyone. We're not here selling a panacea for all ills. But when it works, and it only works when 2 people or 3 people or 5 people or whoever is in the room want it to work.
Polly, what about you? What do you say to people who are considering mediation in their conflict situation?
Well, particularly focusing on families with children. And one of the things that sometimes happens is when people come to see us and have an information assessment meeting, they may talk a little bit about the other person a lot, and what the other person thinks and what the other person... It's an ideal opportunity to say, with the greatest respect, I'm here to hear your perspective and really support people to decide whether are they able at this stage to consider not only their own perspective, but their perspective may be distinct from the other person's. Can they sit with that? And ultimately, do they want to retain decision-making authority within the family unit? Because the issue is if they go to court, which some families need to, that's absolutely the way some families need to go, then they will have a judgment imposed. Now, if they do it in mediation, and it is hard work, they will then be fully informed themselves, and they will have made their decisions for their children in the best interest of their children and both of the parents. And that, for me, is what I try to explain, I think, to clients is, are they up for that challenge, to do the work, to retain that?
I think one of the loveliest things I ever heard anyone say in that situation was, I don't want to go on feeling this sad. Mm-hmm. Because that's a very compelling reason for doing something about it. Yes. Unfortunately, the clock has beaten us, and we have to move on. I would like to say very many thanks to Joan Davis, CEO of Relate NI, to Polly Rowan Hamilton, accredited mediator and professional practice guidance consultant. If you'd like to find out more about family mediation, contact Relate NI on 028 90 323 454 or check out the details on the Relate NI website. And if you want to find out more about mediation in general, contact Mediation Northern Ireland at www.mediationnorthernireland.org. Thanks for listening. We look forward to your company in the Resolution Room for the next edition of this podcast series.